بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Let's pick up where we left off. We were speaking at the end of the last time I spoke about beauty. And we said this many times, and this is really important to understand. Beauty has ontological roots. Beauty has ontological roots. What does that mean? It means that the nature of beauty is rooted in the nature of being, the nature of reality itself. It is not arbitrary. It is not subjective. It is more than objective. It is a root of reality. It is metaphysical. So that would mean the same thing, because metaphysics is about ontology. Metaphysics is about the nature of being. And the Prophet ﷺ, in a famous hadith to Abu Hurairah, which is sahih, he taught, Abu Hurairah says that the Prophet gave me 2 camel loads of knowledge. And one of those I disclosed to you. And the other one, if I disclosed to you, you would cut my neck. Okay? So this is about Sharia and Haqiqah. Because the Haqiqah deals with realities that most people can only misunderstand. And therefore they can only be given to the people who can understand them. Doesn't mean, and it never contradicts the exoteric. The esoteric does not contradict the esoteric, but many people cannot comprehend the esoteric unless you make it beautiful, unless you present it to them in beauty. And that camel load that is given to all, it is fundamentally about amal. It is about practice, the way we should act, the way we should behave, which is, of course, the most important thing of all. You know, la ilma bila amal. There is no knowledge without practice. And there is no practice without knowledge. The other camel load is about what? Ontology. It's about the nature of reality, the structure of reality. Do you need to know that? No. And in fact, most people are not capable of knowing that. And so the hadith that are in the other camel load are ones that are not familiar to most of the muhaddithins, because they're not in the main books. They're in the hearts of men and women of God. And they are hadith like the hadith Qudsi, the divine hadith where God says, I loved to be known. It was my love to be known. So I created the creation. And I made myself beloved to them by the blessings that they gave to me. Okay, that hadith is not about amal. It is not about practice. It is about ontology. It is about metaphysics. And so the Prophet gave us a camel load of metaphysics. Okay, but it has to be kept away from the people who cannot comprehend it. It is for the special people, not for the ordinary people. And this is not elitism. But not everyone can be a poet. Not everyone can be an artist. Not everyone can be a physicist or an advanced mathematician. Not everyone can understand these things. So we have ordinary people, and you have special people, and very special people. That's the way reality is set up. And when the Muslim society is correct, then it honors those ranks very greatly. The ordinary Muslim, which are the rank and file, they are not to talk about this religion. They are not to talk about ontology. They have to be very careful even about correcting you. Because for the ordinary Muslim who is not a scholar, properly trained with ijazah, like Sheikh Musa Ferber, for that person to talk about this deen, you can't wear that earring, you can't put on makeup, you can't do this. That is a greater sin than for them to go and get drunk. It is. And that's what destroys Islamic civilization. And Ibn al-Mawaq, who was one of the great fuqaha of Granada, at the very end, he wrote a book called Sananul Muhtadin, which is about the pathways of the people who are guided. And it's about what caused Muslim Spain and Portugal to be destroyed and to fall prey to the Crusaders. And at the head of that was that the ordinary Muslim talks about the deen. And most of these externalized Muslims, that's exactly what they are, even though they call themselves this group and that group and this group and that group, and they've memorized hadith, but they have no permission. They do not know this deen. They have no smattering of understanding of metaphysics, and therefore they destroy us. All they want is power. All they want is ambition. All they want is self-promotion, and they don't know how to do anything. Put them in power and they are fools. They're incompetent, you know. So, in any case, metaphysics is part of our tradition, and beauty is ontological, and beauty is there to communicate the truth. That's what beauty does. And again, we cannot communicate that metaphysics in words because it is too much. But in beauty you can. In the note of a flute you can. In a beautiful word of poetry you can. In incredible architecture you can. And then it affects everybody, from the smallest child to the greatest philosopher. Beauty is to communicate truth and virtue, goodness, love, justice, in all appearances. In other words, in all the appearances of beauty. That's what it is meant to do. And God is beautiful and He loves beauty. And He commands us to do beauty. He commands us to do ihsan in all things. So we did it in our carpets. We did it in our bath towels. We did it in everything. And of course, in these incredible structures that Muslims built that are so tectonic, so perfectly adapted to the earth, that they are beyond description. Beauty reveals the many truths that cannot be told to people any other way. And therefore also beauty is rooted in true symbolism. And modern man has no understanding of symbolism whatsoever. Freud believed that it comes out of our sick psyches. And Jung, who's more dangerous than Freud, he thought that it comes from some sort of unconsciousness, which is also below. No, not at all. And one of the things that perplexed Jung was why there's so much unity between symbols. And he talks about the collective unconscious. I mean, really, give me a break. Why don't you just solve it and go out and look at the world? Symbolism comes from up there. Symbolism is vertical. Symbolism is mathematical. Symbolism is geometric. The point, and out of the point comes the circle. And the circle is a picture of infinity and of infinite multiplicity. And the point is absoluteness. Circles have great meaning. They have huge meaning, and so do squares. And so do all other shapes and numbers. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, right? Golden ratio. Golden ratio. Like all objective truth and reality, then beauty is essentially out there. And you see it because you have it in you. It has its own intrinsic quality, like the beauty of the snowflake or the little flower, maybe with 3 petals or 8 petals. The clover has usually 3 petals, golden triangle. The beauty of the snowflake or the little flower. And that beauty of the snowflake or the little flower suggests an entire world, an entire cosmos. And it praises God. It praises God. The petals of the flower, the swirls of the snail's shell, the spectacular beauty of the coral reef. You know, one of the most beautiful things in Chicago, as far as I'm concerned, and this is from the time I was a boy, my mother would take me there when I was 4 years old. You know, the Chicago Aquarium, you know, mashallah, it's beautiful. It is beautiful. And you just see the incredible beauty of the coral reefs and of everything in the sea and the river and the ocean. And like, why is that beauty there? We never saw it before, as I think Sheikh Musa pointed out. The coral reef, who knew what beauty was there until just very recently? Why? What purpose does it serve? That glorifies God. It glorifies God. The fishes of the sea with all their colors, all their beauties. The whale's graceful dive. The bird of paradise's tail. The beauty of the northern lights. Beauty sets you free. Beauty sets you free. It liberates. Ugliness imprisons. Ugliness imprisons. That's very important. And, you know, we're going to talk about this in a minute. We are not here to lament anything. We are here to be a vanguard of beauty, leading the way forward. That's what you've got to do. Okay? But beauty will set you free. And beauty is the only way we can teach this religion. We are commanded to do beauty. And we have to make beautiful communities with beautiful people, loving people. And then you see what happens. Because against the contracts of the ugliness, of the nightmare, of this time which goes lower and lower and lower, that beauty will be radiant. Because it is ontological. Because it is metaphysical. Beauty calls upon us to pass beyond appearance. Modernity is systematically superficial. Systematically superficial. But the modern cannot go deeper than the surface. They are stopped because they don't have the language. They don't have the cognitive frames. They don't have the understanding. But beauty, especially when we get it right, it makes you go beyond the appearance. When you go to Al-Hamra on Saturday, you watch the tourists there. They don't know what it means, but they know it's beautiful. And they have to come back. And it's communicating, but they can't understand it. Of course, we can help them to understand it. But beauty calls upon us to pass beyond appearance. And as we said, God is beautiful. He loves the beautiful. This is the basis of the metaphysical transparency of creation. And this world out here, in this beautiful place, Rosales, that is metaphysically transparent. Can't you see that? Our sister Isabel was looking at the mountains and talking about how beautiful. They are transparent. There you see from the mulk to the malakut. And our brother Jihad talked about mulk and malakut and jabarut. Where are they? I don't know if you can understand this. I can't. The mulk is right here. This is mulk. Where's the malakut? Right here. Where's the jabarut? Right here. It's not like go up there a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. It doesn't work like that. Reality doesn't work like that. And this mulk is so transparent, you can see the mulk right through it. Beauty pulls. Beauty attracts. Beauty makes us melt. And it opens the heart. Habib Ahmed Mashur, may Allah have mercy on him, was, I am honored to say and humbled to say, one of my mashayikh, one of the most beautiful human beings I ever knew. And maybe over 100,000 people embraced Islam under him. And he would go into idolatrous villages in East Africa and other places. And they go in playing the drums and playing the flutes and singing music that will make you lose your mind. So beautiful. And why? Because he said their hearts are dark. And we cannot take the truth to them until we open the heart. Music is not haram in Islam. There is no categorical statement in Islam that says music is haram. Music is judged according to what it is used for. The music that makes you lascivious and deviant and insane, yes, that's haram. But music opens the heart. Instruments open the heart. That's why they're so critical. Because what are you going to put in the heart once you open it? So that's what he does. He goes in, and it's really incredible. Blowing the flutes, beating the drums, and then they give a message that goes right to the heart. And the people are transformed, and the heart never closes up again. Beauty pulls, beauty melts. Beauty brings us to the realization of spiritual being and spiritual truths without effort. And all our Islamic heritage was based on that. We were beautiful people. We were the least violent people in history. That's historical fact. Yes, we believe in jihad. We are warriors. And we are proud to be warriors. You know, the warrior is the man of God, the man of war, who's got to be decent. He's got to be virtuous. Okay, he's not a criminal. He's not a beast. You know, the warrior is the most noble of all people. We were that, but we were very rarely violent because we are ready to fight. You know, we know how to do that, but we don't do that cheaply. And we don't do that without integrity. So Islamic civilization historically is the least violent. What's the most violent? Christianity. By far. What's the second most violent? Buddhism. Isn't that strange? But it's true. And look at what's happening in Burma right now. The Muslims have been set up for classical systematic genocide, and they are being wiped out. And those are Buddhists who talk about the ants and they talk about other things, you know. So in any case, you know, this is very important. We were people of beauty. Muslims were the people who could be the link between every people on the earth. We could create a society that united Buddhists, Confucianists, Taoists, Hindus, Jains, shamans, Christians, Magians, Zoroastrians, Jews, everybody. And we did it historically. The Jews never attained in history the kind of culture they attained here in Spain under the protection of the Muslims. And you could not call a Jew a kafir or a Christian. You would be punished in court because that makes them feel bad. You have to treat them with dignity. So, and how could we do that today? Look at the way these beasts misbehave. These externalized Muslims who have no hearts and no minds. They don't understand anything. And they are filled with hate. They are filled with violence. It can't be any other way. Being is good. And I like to use the word being when we talk about absolute being, like necessary being, instead of existence. Both are excellent words, but existence, given its Latin root, existere, which means to stand out. You know, it is good for what we call temporal being, existence from nothing, existence from nothing. So we can talk about God's existence, and that often works better for us, you know, because we use that word more. But being, with a capital B, is good, absolutely good. Being is merciful. And these are foundations of our metaphysics. We have no problem with this. Being rooted in being, or let's put existence rooted in being, releases infinite truth, infinite goodness, virtue, and infinite beauty with justice, balance, and love. Privation is evil. And we will hear in our metaphysical tradition words that are very difficult to understand. And that is that evil is non-existent. and that non-existence is evil. It's very hard to understand that, so it's best just to make a note of it. Don't try to interpret it. But what it means, and it's deep, deep, deep. But what it means is that evil is privation, deprivation, denial, negation, the negation of being, the negation of existence. Evil, as we said before, is psychic. That's where it exists. It lives in your psyche. It has no existence out there in the trees or in the mountains or anything else. It is rooted in non-existence. And privation is merciless. It is unrooted and uprooted. And all people who are unrooted and uprooted, and that unfortunately is so many people today, it's difficult for them to be strong. It's difficult for them even to be good. And you know, we have suicide all the time. I don't know why suicide happens. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I know our brothers and sisters could tell us all kinds of things. But one of the things I would guess is that when you are not rooted, you will do things that will shock you. And then when you come back to meet yourself again, you'd rather be dead. You'd rather be dead. You know, we have a sister here, you know, I won't say who it is, who is living downtown in Chicago, and she was walking into a building down in the Loop, and a man jumped from the top of the building and hit right on the pavement in front of her. Suicide. Suicide. And this was a person who probably was extremely, quote unquote, successful in an unsuccessful world and an unsuccessful life. And for some reason, he couldn't live with it anymore. Because we are meant to be good. We are created good. And yet, if you get uprooted and unrooted, you will say things, you will do things that will shock you. And maybe you don't want to live with yourself after that. Although, again, you can always set it right. Privation is merciless, and uprooted, unrooted people are capable of great, unprecedented evil in the realm of all possibility, the realm of this world that we live in. Okay, so that finishes up, inshallah, the discussion that we were talking about last time. And now we want to talk about something new, which is the nature of anti-traditionalism. Anti-traditionalism. You could call that modernity, post-modernity. You could also call it Muslim fundamentalism, because Muslim fundamentalism is always anti-traditional. And that means it bears the mark of the beast, because the beast is anti-traditional. The beast has to be anti-traditional. And before we begin that, let's just repeat some things we've said now several times. And we all agree on this. All of the scholars, Karim Laham emphasizes this emphatically. And all of the Mashayikh, Sidi Hisham. We are not here for lamentations, right? No. We are not here to lament the past. We're not here to lament the fall of the beautiful civilization that was here. We are here to bring it back. We are here to go forward. We are here to make our own lands, the United States of America, Mexico, Canada, Britain, Argentina, other lands, Britain, the most beautiful on the face of the earth, where the buffalo roam for real. You know, that can happen when Islam is there. Really and truly, we can show you that. Sheikh Musa could tell you how that happens. You know, because animals have rights, and the buffaloes have a right to roam. And I'm sorry about your fences. You can't fence in everything. You can fence in what you're going to bring to life. You better get on a horseback and learn how to herd your cattle again. Okay, so we're not here for lamentations. We are here to show the path forward. And you are the vanguard. You are the one who will take it forward. And to do this, you've got to get your heart right. You've got to get your heart filled with truth, filled with virtue, and then it will overflow with beauty. And we have to join hands. This is not the work of one man or one woman. This is the work of all of us together to build a new world, a better world, and a more beautiful world, to make Cairo the wonder of the world that it once was. When Napoleon came to Cairo, it was one of the wonders of the world. And the standard of living of the Egyptian peasant, not to mention the people of the city of Cairo, was way above that of the French soldier. Okay, so we can bring that back. We've got the means to do that. And to do that, we have to become a creative minority, which means a beauty-creating minority, a beautiful creating minority. Who makes history? Who makes history? The majority? Never. Not on your life. The majority are beautiful people. They are good people, but they are not the leaders. They're never the leaders. And you can't take the leaders from them in reality. There are people who are created to be leaders, and there are people who are created to be followers. That's the way God set up reality. Who runs history? Who makes history? The creative minority. Minorities make history. Okay, that's something very important. When you study history, you've got to always look for the minorities that are running the show. Who rules the United States today? 1%. Do you know them? Probably not. Who would? They are hidden. They know each other. They're extremely wealthy, extremely learned, extremely powerful, and they will defend their power and privilege. You better believe it. They will do that. They watch out for anything that threatens their power and privilege. They run the show, and they are a minority, tight. They intermarry, they know each other, they go to the same schools. This is the way history works. The minorities are the ones that do it, and there are different types of minorities. There are types of minorities which we can call historical fossils. And a lot of Muslims that are not so bad, that's exactly what they would be. They're not going to change anything. They will be interesting historical fossils with their particular type of teaching and dress. Maybe interesting to go visit, like the Amish. The Amish are a historical fossil. They're beautiful people. We get our chickens often from the Amish. They know how to slaughter them correctly, and they believe. But historical fossils, they don't change anything. Okay? Most history is ruled and controlled by the elite, dominant minority, and they're dangerous. They divide and they conquer. And they will be merciful to anyone who threatens their power and privilege. And they are the peoples who ran Rome and who ran, the empire, the British Empire, the French Empire, and so many other things. And they always are elitist. And they always consolidate power and privilege in their own hands. The creative minority, however, is the maker of civilizations. And civilizations, according to some great historians, always begin with the creative minority, which would be what? A prophetic minority. And the creative minority will have truth, virtue, and beauty, and love, and justice. And although it sees distinctions between the ordinary, the special, and the extra special, there is justice and love and freedom and opportunity for all. One of the reasons why the Catholic Church has always had an axe to grind with us is because when Islam came to this land and to Europe, it abolished feudalism. And the Catholic Church was feudal. You didn't go to the monastery if you were not aristocracy. The monks were not common people. They would have brethren who would help them and do the work, but they wouldn't sleep with them. They wouldn't eat with them. The monasteries were aristocratic. And Islam came to these beautiful lands, and I don't think I don't even know if they understood they were doing this. But they said, "Man ahya ardan mawatin fahiya lah." As the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whoever brings fallow land, dead land, to life owns it. Whether Jew, Christian, Muslim, Zoroastrian, whatever he or she may be. So the peasants are free. Just get your pick and go out and plant an olive tree and you own it. Go enclose a well and you own it. You didn't pay a thing and you will never pay a thing. And this brought the land to life with an agricultural revolution, the likes of which the world has never seen. You know, we had a revolution in Egypt recently, and may God protect the Egyptian people and all the Arab people. But most people don't know the real revolution in Egypt is a dark revolution, and it is the introduction of genetically modified crops. That's happened now. That will destroy Egypt. That will destroy it. Okay? So we didn't do that. We had real agricultural revolutions that fed the people, that created great economies. So the creative minority, that's what we've got to be. And one of the reasons why we're talking about this theme, beauty as the splendor of truth, beauty, virtue, truth, virtue, beauty, is because it releases creativity. So you become creative. And as a creative minority, you then become the vanguard. People are in awe of you. You are the one that can do all these amazing things. You can even play like Pied Piper, right? You know the notes to hit. You know how to get into the hearts. So, by communicating through beauty, that's how we do that. And protecting and developing those who cannot speak for themselves, those who cannot defend themselves. We have to guard them. Like Sheikh Musa said in his beautiful lecture today, animals have rights. They can't speak on their own behalf. You know, they have rights. They've got to be able to graze. They've got to be able, to eat the food they were created to eat. That's Islamic law. You can't feed a cow meat. You can't feed a cow hops. They weren't made to eat hops. They've got to be able to graze. And the sheep and the goats, this is their garden. This is their paradise. The chickens. Chickens are incredible animals, extremely beneficial animals. If you want to have a permacultural wonderland in your backyard, chickens can do that for you. Chickens do amazing things, but they've got to be allowed to walk. They've got to be allowed to be in the sun and other things like that. So we have to defend those who cannot defend themselves, speak for those who cannot speak for themselves, like animals, like the environment, like the water, and of course, like the weak and the poor. Those who are denied privilege, those who are in prison in the inner city, in an ugly, ugly world, the likes of which, how could we express it? And that is Satan. Because beauty is the splendor of truth. So when we are here in a setting like this, with beautiful nature, it is easy to be virtuous. Because this is virtue. And it tells truth. Okay, so this is God's wisdom and God's mercy, that He put us human beings in the world against a backdrop of incredible natural beauty. And that helps us to be good. It helps us to know truth. And then in the great cultures and civilizations, we created this architecture that, as Sheikh Karim said, is the metaphysics of the outward. Beautiful cities, beautiful towns, beautiful buildings. Okay? So what does that do if you live, even if you're a poor man, in a beautiful city, a beautiful town, even though maybe tonight you go to bed hungry, but you will be virtuous because your environment teaches you that. And when you put people in an ugly, rat-infested, broken down, inner city, the concrete is broken, the windows are broken, the drugs are here, the prostitutes are there. All of that is there. How can you be good? This denies truth. This denies virtue by the denial of beauty and by imprisoning people in ugliness. So you expect those people to do better? Heaven help them. We take to them the deen, and inshallah they will become human again. And do you think that will be easy? No. Because once you begin to do that, you will see the man in control. He's not going to make that easy. May Allah make it easy for us. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, already, as we say in the United States, Islam is on cruise control, especially in the inner city. We said before, for the believer, God is real. Beauty is the splendor of truth. God is real. Truth is real. You have virtue. You have beauty. It's as if you could see Him. Not just when you worship, but in everything. So for the believer, God becomes real. He is real. And in fact, as you develop spiritually, you really do witness God in creation. Not in an anthropomorphic way, but you see His names, you see His attributes. You see it before you see the tree. We know this from our tradition. We know this. So the believer, God is real, and this world out there of events, of temporal happenings, it is a philosophical question of the greatest merit. How can it exist in conjunction with God, who is necessary being? And Ibn Ata'Allah, he has beautiful things to say about that. And so do all, of our awliya. But Abu Madyan, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, "Man la wujuda li dhatihi min dhatihi, fawujuduhu lawlahu aynul muhali." He said, that which has no existence of its essence for its essence. Did you create yourself? Did you give yourself your essence? Does that tree create itself? That which has no existence from its essence for its essence, its existence, if it were not for God, is the epitome of impossibility. So that is the radiant, that is the mirror of the existence of God in creation. Okay? For the believer, God is real. And the world is a philosophical question, and a very beautiful one. And our metaphysics will tell you about that, because the metaphysics is basically about that. How then is that world structured? How then must it be structured? God never recreates the same thing twice. God never recreates the same thing twice. This cup has been recreated how many times since they gave it to me? Every breath, every moment, it is recreated out of nothing, but done so beautifully and so seamlessly, you can't tell and I can't tell. It's like the frames of a motion picture. One picture, another picture, another picture, but when they go quickly together on the projector, you don't see the frames, and it looks like there's continuity. So, for the disbeliever, as we said before, this world is real. Poor person. Miskeen. Wretchedly poor. And God is a philosophical question. You've got it upside down, inverted. It's not like that. For the believer, then God is real and the world is a philosophical question. For the disbeliever, the world is real and God is a philosophical question. People who see the illusion